r/antiwork. Shitifoon says, I find your lack of faith in unions disturbing. Included photo. Evolvingdia says, The Empire Strikes Back. No definition 1474 says, I can't stop laughing at Vader's droopy drawers. Durgadus says, the shoe art is strong with this one. Saltsha says, Shot Vader. Forsbergfan9 says, aren't you a little short for Darth Vader? Nihilistic Polianus says, damn, props to their commitment. It was so toasty outside today. That person must have been stewing in their own juices under that black outfit. Thrift Funnel says, in a Ford Galaxy far far away. Min Mountain says, my old supervisor was a union rep. Every time there was a strike she would go on leave. Didn't want to give up her pay for the cause. Typhoid Timmy says, no more force jokes without pay raises. I don't care how many times they let the rebel scum get away. r/antiwork. Iraptor55 says, we worked remote for 3 years and now we are required to be in 4 days a week, while the entire headquarters is being demoed/reconstructed. After working remote for 3 years, we are now being required to come into the office 4 days a week per corporate guidelines. For the next 3 years, our headquarters is in the process of demolition and reconstruction. Almost everyone is being impacted by noise of workers in the ceiling, walls being torn down, jackhammers going, the constant dust and debris, and the windows have been blocked off, barring any natural light in the office. There have been so many emails thanking us for our patience with the noise and construction, and to keep moving forward working in office, but if some days are harder than others, get permission from your supervisor to work from home for that day, but to please make an effort to come in. Oh, and they keep emailing saying we are monitoring the air quality, and will let you know if there are any changes. Our walls are being replaced with plastic sheets, there is dust everywhere, and the water fountains are now cloudy, but they are monitoring it. Okay. Decent Photographone 391 says, my biggest concerns would be asbestos in old buildings, followed by lead in paint. Plastic at 5324 says, there are so many regulations for asbestos testing pre-demo/reno. Not really a major concern. Drywall dust isn't good for the lungs, however. Listhan 300 says, not being near noise is one of the many ways that WFH is a reasonable accommodation, and contact your doctor to see which reasons apply to you. Proof Appointment 3759 says, breathing in concrete dust is horrible. Silica in the lungs can be deadly. Nenad says, the moment you feel any kind of respiratory issues or headaches, tell them that it is not a safe or healthy working environment and you are requesting to WFH until construction is finished. If they don't comply, go to the DOL and file a complaint for unsafe and hazardous work environment. Klapsikook says, hello OSHA. Brisk Guy 1979 says, ask them for a letter guaranteeing full health coverage paid directly by them for any future respiratory issues that may arise. Get everyone to ask for the same. Malneficent says, video and photograph the evidence that it's that bad and OSHA it. AzorG01 says, what state are you in? There are construction guidelines that have to be followed and it sounds like your situation isn't allowed. Seems very odd. Kasiri87 says, get a doctor's note that you can't work in a construction zone due to debris and noise and common sense. Quesafresco 420 says, I used to work in a dusty and dirty environment. It was so dirty that I would blow and clean my laptop off once a week. One time while blowing my laptop out I accidentally shot way too much air into a fan and it shattered. I'd hate for the same misfortune to happen to you. r/antiwork. Oregon High Sports says, I have a work story this time, instead of a shitty meme or rant about our tyrant clown government. My wife told me this gem about their new hire. My wife is a hiring manager in a small business of 20 people in the service industry. Though she's right under the owner in seniority, she does the same work day in and day out as the newest workers do, with some administrative stuff mixed in. They interviewed this girl, and she was great. 22 years old, some related experience, seemed excited for the gig. They wanted to hire her right out the gate, but they brought her back for a second interview. As expected, it goes great. She asks for a little more money, they say sure. They ask if she has any questions, and she starts tearing up, and says just one. So they're like okay sure, what? This poor girl starts bawling, and asks if anyone here is going to harass her, abuse her or gaslight her. She straight up has a breakdown in front of my wife and her boss, full on sobbing. Like she couldn't even speak for a while, until she collected herself. My wife tells me this and all I can think is, how god awful of a human being do you have to be to push someone to their breaking point like this? This doesn't even seem like someone who's finally had enough, this sounds like complex PTSD. This girl is 5 foot nothing, and 95 pounds soaking wet too, so it pisses me off that extra bit, because you know some douchebag is going harder on her, because he knows he won't get punched in the frickin' face. Nobody wants to work anymore. Yeah, nobody wants starvation wages, to put up with stuff like this. Holy shit, man. PCKLDPR says, I got blackballed a few years ago after reporting sexual harassment at work. Everyone knows this girl was a slut, was the first excuse. The second time was to a new female hour person, and she quit a month later. Cheap_dates says, last year, we passed on a job candidate. The background check discovered that he was fired from his previous job for sexual harassment. I'm in the medical field and that is an instant no hire, but thanks for playing. Every now and then, karma does make its appearance known. IMF4RDS says, this was literally how I was when anyone asked me how my day was. I would just cry. I cried in my office. I had panic attacks when my boss called. Pure frick, I'm evil. It also doesn't take this long to happen when day in and day out harassment occurs. I still feel like I'm not good enough. And I have not recovered mentally or financially. Raging Potato 98 says, worst workplace bullying stories I've heard are almost always nurses, teachers, video game companies. Haven't heard this much about service. Hope that kid is alright. Bella Full Off Machi says, ugh. This is so sad. I hate people. Fat Caligral says, that poor girl, BS like that shouldn't happen to anyone at any age, let alone one so young. I'm glad she left that situation. Our sanity and mental and physical health is worth too much to put up with toxic work environments. It's the reason I left my previous job and I will never regret it. Opinion Long Jumping 94 says, sounds like someone could benefit from some revenge therapy. Frosty Celebration 55 says, how dare you assume her abuser's gender. Sonajune 91 says, I feel this all too keenly. Just last weekend I went to my employer admitting that I was really struggling. My dog and best friend for 8 years just died. I found out my mother has breast cancer and I got an eviction notice saying I need to pay thousands or vacate. I need to earn more money, so I asked to change my availability to days, only so that I can get a second job. I have given everything to this job. I've covered every shift ever asked of me, have worked late, come in early, worked split shifts, and had my schedule changed on a moment's notice. Literally just today a coworker needed her shift next week covered, and I'm the only person who even asked her about it. Well, last Saturday I got dragged into an office and yelled at for an hour and a half, where my manager trashed me as a person, my dog, my mother, my house, and my family. She accused that every single person in the department hated me and only tolerated me for coverage. These are the same people who hug me at the end of the day and say they love me. My manager swore on her son's life that I never sent her a text, which I could easily disprove. I was having to use phrases taught to me. r/antiwork. Rawast Jolt says, how is it okay that getting sick as an hourly worker means you just go broke? I was scheduled off the first 3 days of this pay period, then got the flu, and was out sick for my next 4 shifts. Started to feel better and my partner got diagnosed with COVID, and now I've tested positive too, though I'm feeling fine. By the time I'm comfortable breaking quarantine to go back to work, it'll have missed a week and a half of a 2-week pay period. I already only work part-time because I'm disabled. I have a B.Sc in physics, so I work in retail of course, so I don't have PTO. How is it that this is the way this system works? I'm super lucky to not have rent to pay, but what if I had rent, kids, etc. I know this isn't any monumental realization, but it's just insane. I'm hopeful for the future of labor action, but it's so insane that everyone accepts this. Even worse, so many people in the labor class even approve of it, especially those who are working class, but haven't worked retail/food service. It's just so fundamentally broken. Toffertanium says, the system is working just fine. You have to stop thinking of yourself as a person or a human that has a right to live. The system views you on how you can contribute to the bottom line. If you are not in a position to create value for something else, then you do not have value. Your survival, when you cannot contribute, is not important. It disgusts me to write that as an hourly employee. I understand that at any moment, my employer can decide to let me go and die, and my family would very quickly be homeless and destitute. This is also why there are concerns of the birth rate slowing down, because there needs to be exponential growth of population for there to continue to be exponential growth of workforce and profits. I hope you and your partner recover quickly and fully from your illnesses, and that you are able to quickly find better gainful employment. Spirited_Island 75 says, exactly this. This is what more people need to realize. It's why the disabled have to jump through so many hoops to get on disability. It's why it's such a hassle to get rightful accommodations for those who can work. It's why the homeless, even the working homeless, are treated like human garbage. It's why so many retired folks with limited savings have trouble making ends meet. While labor laws are being relaxed, and young teenagers are now getting jobs in heavy machinery and meat picking plants. You are only worth anything if you can produce profit for the masters. If you can't, then tough shit. They don't want you to save money either. They want you to spend more than you get paid and put the rest on a high interest credit card. That way you'll be a debt slave until you die. This is the way our economic system works. Spamfilter32 says, because capitalism is literally evil. Exotic Meat Dealer says, you're not a human, you're a resource, like a coal seam. As long as you produce coal for cheap, it's all good. If not, well, there's a stack of mineral maps on the manager's desk waiting to be exploited. Unfree Radical says, many Americans enjoyed a level of prosperity and security because their parents and grandparents fought for a better world for everyone. Recent generations have sold that world to the highest bidder. Historical_7398 says, it's okay because the American political system has convinced the working class to vote against its own interests. BNH 1978 says, if you have a BS in physics, I don't know how you're working in retail. Look into radio pharmaceutical manufacturing and nuclear medicine. They always hire physics majors because they need people that can understand radioactive decay and particle accelerators. Health physics is another option. You can take a couple cheap or free online classes and walk into a lot of jobs, especially at universities. Look for radiation safety technician. You have an extremely valuable degree. Feel free to PM me if you want more career advice or help with resumes. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.